Bronwyn said, you know, wearing a nice shirt. I figured I would just continue with casual Sunday here.
That's kind of what Austin is, though, is
casual, eclectic, comfortable in your own skin kind of thing. So we're going to continue with that theme a little bit. As you know, we've been talking a little bit about property management, and I think the thing that I keep going back to that is probably more important than anything else with property management is this flow that you've seen before, okay? And you all probably know what it is. I'm hoping that you can write this verbatim. You should be able to do this in your sleep. This is, I know, it seems a little bit redundant, but this is exactly what property management is. Exactly. I don't care about bricks and mortar. I don't care about tenants so much as I care about this right here. All of those things are a means to an end. The end here is cash flow. You've got to be able to put yourself in your asset in a position in which you understand the flow of the business. When people come to me, like I had someone come to me last night when we were at dinner, I forget where he is, but he asked me about a property, and you know, he said, should I buy it? It was in a certain area. I don't know that until I look at the numbers, the flow. I've got to look at the financials of this. Remember yesterday we were talking about a financial statement. What are the 4 parts to a financial statement? Do you guys remember? Remember? Income and balance sheet, but what are the 4 parts of that? 2 of each. Income and expenses, assets and liabilities. You have got to manage that. And make sure that you're managing your property manager in doing this. Again, it's not that I guess I don't care about tenants or care about bricks and mortar. I want you to be considerate of how much income's coming in. What are the expenses? And if I just stop there with my property manager, I'll say, how are you going to increase my income during the year? How are you going to decrease my expenses during the year for one purpose? Do you know what that purpose is? That purpose is to drive net operating income. When you raise net operating income, you're better able to service your debt, and you're going to produce more cash flow for you. That is really what property management is all about. So I wanted to review that for you real quickly before I got into the X's and O's, so to speak. The Platts have been going through this series a little bit on our weekly call, so some of you may have seen a couple of points here that I'm going to make. For the rest of you, you have not. I want to give you one disclaimer. In every state, they have different property management rules. So please be sure to adhere to your local, state, and municipal laws and regulations. When I say state and municipal, let me tell you why I'm saying that. I'm going to give you the state of Illinois as an example. The state of Illinois has specific rules about their property management that you do in their state. Cook County also has specific rules with regard to property management that you do in that county. The city of Chicago, which is in Cook County, which is in the state of Illinois, has specific rules that you must adhere to. So if you're in another city in Cook County, you have to abide by different rules. That's my point. You've got to make sure what the local laws and rules there. They're all different in all 50 states. So if you plan on investing here in Austin, Texas, find out what the rules and laws are here. If you plan on investing in Atlanta, Georgia, find out what the rules and laws are there. It's very important that you do that. So here's what we're going to cover. First being, we're going to examine the strategies that provide leverage and establish value in property management. We're going to understand how due diligence starts the property management process. We're going to learn the responsibilities involved in running a property management company or selecting a property manager. And the reason I make a distinction there is because most of you are probably going to do one of the two. You're going to do one of the two. Now, you're either going to run the property yourself from afar, or maybe hire someone to help run your property, specifically the ones that are buying larger apartment buildings, or you're going to hire a third-party property manager. In either case, you're going to have to know what good property management is. You're either going to have to run a property management company as a CEO. You might have one employee, one part-time employee, or you're going to be hiring a property management company to manage your house, your small apartment building, or your large apartment complex. Okay? In either way, you're going to have to know good property management. So that's what we're going to be going over. You're going to learn what and who to consider when building your property management team. We talked a little bit about team yesterday. You're going to see some of those same people on your roster. I'm going to explain why they need to be on your property management team and what makes them important, what they should be doing. Learn how to manage tenants to reduce problems and increase profits. Learn how to make rental units ready to be rented. Very important that you are able to minimize your turnover, number one, the people moving in and out of your apartment building or your single family house, but more importantly, what does it mean to make that thing rent ready? Okay? What does it mean to make it rent ready? And then finally, understand the general concepts of overall property management. So here's some stats I think you should be aware of. The first one being that 60% of all U.S. rental housing is owned by individual landlords like you and I. 60%. So the majority of rental housing in the States are owned by individual landlords rather than large corporations. Okay? Almost a third, 1/3 of all U.S. housing is rented. And I believe that percentage is going up as we speak. But right now it's about 1/3 of all U.S. housing is rented. Almost 60% of all housing is detached single-family homes. Almost 60% is detached single-family homes. So that kind of gives you an idea of what the type of asset that a lot of people are renting. And then finally, there are over 115 million housing units in the United States, 115 million. So that'll kind of give you a sense of what type of opportunity that you have to go out and get, right? 115 million, that's quite a bit. We've got what? 40 people in the room? I'd say we got some opportunity there, right? Okay. Now, here's the reality kind of checklist that I want you to be aware of. Number one, there's a difference between managing a single-family house and a multifamily. Let me kind of give you an example of what that would be. A single-family house would kind of be compared to a father kind of managing their household with 2 children. You got responsibilities. You've got to teach your children, to be polite, which is sometimes a difficult thing to do. You've got, you want to keep them safe. You want to make sure that they have all the things necessary to grow and to be secure. Well, managing a multifamily property is a little bit different than that. It's kind of like a superintendent of a school system being responsible for hundreds, if not thousands, of kids. You need to really make sure that you're doing those same skill sets, but on a much bigger scale. You've got much bigger responsibilities. Both as a father in a household and a superintendent of a school system, you also have a financial side of that. There's a financial responsibility that you go through from an aspect of, going to your 9 to 5, getting your paycheck, or running your company if you own your own company. Or if it's a school system and a superintendent, you've got a budget probably to manage. The same thing here. That first thing that I put on the screen today, income minus expenses equals NOI minus debt service equals cash flow, is what a father manages, and it's what a superintendent of a school system manages. So I really, really would challenge you to kind of think about property management in that way. If I was just starting out in real estate as an investor, and I had an interview with a property manager, one of the things that I would ask them, or probably focus on most, would be that first thing I put up there. How do you plan on increasing my NOI? How do you plan on, at the end of the day, increasing my cash flow? Instead of asking questions, well, how do you find your tenants? I'm not saying those aren't important questions, but they're not my main focus. In other words, every question that I may ask is going to have something to do with the financial aspect of it. Does that make sense to everybody? Okay. Number 2, you might be creating your own property management company. And one of my, I don't want to say heroes because I've never really met the person, but one of the people I guess I admire through history is a guy by the name of Andrew Carnegie. Does anybody know? Some of you Platts might from our call, but anybody besides the Platts, anybody know the original business that Andrew Carnegie was in? You do? What was it? It was steel, you think? That's good, because you're wrong. I'm just kidding. How about that for a wake-up call? No, it's not steel, but that's where he ended up in, and that he became the richest person in the world at the time. Anybody else know? Nobody? Okay. The original business that Andrew Carnegie was in, I guess in his professional career, he did start fairly early, was the telegraph business. The telegraph business. And I found that interesting as I read his biography about him, because the telegraph industry would put telegraph poles where? Anybody know? Along rail lines, absolutely. So when he got into that business and he worked himself up, he realized that if he had more control over the railroads where the telegraph poles were going, his telegraph business would do better. I thought that was pretty ingenious. So he started to buy railroad companies. Well, as he got in the railroad business, he took that same mindset and applied it there. The biggest purchase for the railroad business is what commodity? Steel. And the rest was history. He got into the steel business, became the richest person in the world. Why am I telling you that story? Well, I'm telling you that story because there's a synergy that happens in business a lot of times. And that synergy, I feel, can be directly applied to your real estate investing through property management. I'm not saying initially when you start off, would it be possible for you perhaps to start your own property management firm? Some of you may be doing that, but others may be not. What I'm saying is look down the road and see as you grow, is there any synergies like that that you can create for yourself? I think there's a direct correlation with owning an investment property or properties and creating your own property management company. You've got better control, you have certain tax advantages you can take benefit from, and that aspect of synergy, knowing what to do, how to manage your property, what priority to put forth, is never going to happen as well as when you do that yourself, or running that yourself. Now I know that might be a little bit impossible for some of you, I understand that. And that's why I want to talk about this third point here. And that's hiring a property manager. Today and tomorrow, we're going to have some property management companies here. And for most of you, when you're hiring a property management company, I think we focus on things that are certainly good questions to ask, but I really want you to go back to that first thing that I put on the board today. Think about those 5 things: income, expenses, NOI, debt service, cash flow. How do you expect to drive the value of my asset? You guys are in Canada. The property management company is here in the States, managing your single-family house in Austin, Texas, Atlanta, Georgia, Chicago, Illinois. What are they going to be doing over the life of that contract or over the next year that is going to allow them to drive the value of that asset? You guys know from the last couple days that if it's a single-family house, they're going to have to change what that house is being compared to. Do they know what type of things to implement? Would they have a meeting with you and said, hey, if we increase the square footage here on this house, we can really drive the value. If we can add square footage here, we can really drive the value. If we change the windows out or implement a new roof, we would really drive the value. Do they understand the differences there, as opposed to looking at a 5-unit and over and saying, over the next year, we're going to drive net operating income by raising rents and eliminating the expense of water to the owner by sub-metering the building so that each tenant will pay for their own water. Those are the things that I want to focus on with property management. There should be the things that you should be focusing on when you are interviewing a property manager, when you're talking to them about their skill set, when you're talking to them about how they plan on managing your asset.